So when thou hast, as I commanded thee, done blabbing, although to give the lie deserves no less than stabbing, stab at thee he that will, no stab the soul can kill. Sir Walter Raleigh. It is the hour to be drunken. Be drunken if you would not be martyred slaves of time. Be drunken continually, with wine, with poetry, or with virtue, as you will. Baudelaire. Identify your goal and the path to it becomes clear. This is the principle of all ethics. First, then, let us figure the end of the current work so that we can, through it, more easily grasp the end of Survivor and my mastery. If the speech is taken as transcendent in relation to the game, as a commentary and explication, a string of glosses, besides, but not of, the text itself, it, like all commentaries, cannot add value or create meaning that was not already present. Words above cannot change words below, only how the words below are viewed. My tenure as player finished, I would take on the role of spectator, analyst, biased onlooker, but onlooker nonetheless. Yet the game is afoot, and I sit here, same as I have sat at tribal council time and time again. I am no observer. I am alive, and what I speak unto ye are tongues of the one fire that has been my life in this game from the outset, the fire that I have never let die. I tell all the time the same things, so in a sense all this is repetition. But repetition of the truth is confirmation of the confirmed, and reconfirmation of truth is as good as truth itself. Drink from the chalice once more, once more, once more. My wine will fill all full, but all will always find room for another sip. Dramatis personae, or on method. Survivor is not a game of occurrences, events, even histories. It is a game of people. Therefore, I will refrain from linearly rattling off what I thought about votes and challenges, instead putting the players and the relationships they formed in the prime position. To quote Brian Heidick, and really the strategy ultimately should be people. How I was perceived and how I wished to be perceived. As Prufrock, quote, "No, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. I am an attendant lord, one that will do to swallow progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt an easy tool, deferential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious, and meticulous. The actor plays his part, the dancer dances his part. I played my game. The difference is that no one suspected me of being of this class." Airlocked. Every parting gives a foretaste of death. Every coming together again, a foretaste of the resurrection. This is why even people who are indifferent to each other rejoice so much if they come together again after 20 or 30 years separation. Arthur Schopenhauer. Not much can be said about the first tribal. I mistakenly trusted those who told me they had the votes. I was blindsided. Mea culpa. Quoting Schopenhauer again, "People of very brilliant ability think little of admitting their errors and weaknesses, or of letting others see them. They look upon them as something for which they have duly paid, and instead of fancying that these weaknesses are a disgrace to them, they consider they are doing them an honor." But, as Isaac will tell you, the game does not always end when your torch is snuffed, nor does it pause. The airlock is every bit as, and perhaps more, harrowing than traditional camp life. where losing one challenge is death, I won countless. Where one is completely isolated, I formed a close bond. Whence no one, that was a mistake, and I can admit that because, as you heard earlier, and so on, and so on. Whence no one expects to escape, I did. The first boot defeating the entire, and I mean the entire, pre-jury, phenomenal. And how? Please note, that while my legacy advantage came from the safari, my idol did not. I made myself so well liked by everyone that passed through the airlock that if the pre-jury were the jury now, a voting ceremony would be suspenseless. It would just be a matter of waiting for my unanimous win to be announced. Of course, winning over the pre-jury is not the game per se, but what did it get me? An idol, as gift, and a mandate to avenge the fallen. As the most fire-tested and durable contestant sitting here, I am confident that ye, who must vote for the best survivor and no one else, know that from this alone I deserve the crown. But this alone is this alone. There is more yet. On betrayal, lies, and blame, quoting Sophocles from Oedipus at Calamus. Chorus, murderer, Oedipus, yes, a murderer, but no. Chorus, what canst thou plead? Oedipus, a plea of justice. Chorus, how? Oedipus, I slew who else would me have slain. I slew without intent, a wretch but innocent. In the law's eye I stand without a stain. Now quoting St. Thomas Aquinas. When man commits sin without being thereto instigated by the devil, he nevertheless, in fact, becomes a child of the devil thereby, insofar as he imitates him who is first to sin. One does what one must do for oneself. Lady Reason's torch, everlasting. If controversies were to arise, there would be no more need of disputation between two philosophers than between two calculators. For it would suffice for them to take their pencils in their hands and to sit down at the abacus and say to each other, and if they so wish, also to a friend called to help, let us calculate. Leibniz. This is how I play the game. Everything in perfect geometrical order. All previsioned. Muna. After catching Muna in a lie, she told me that I was, quote, being too rational. That says it all. It had struck me, even at my first perfunctory reading, as very strange, and now that I am in closer touch with the case, it is my only firm ground for hope. We must look for consistency. Where there is a want of it, we must suspect deception. Sherlock Holmes. The psychology of neurosis. People act to maintain their self-image. Fundamental principle of psychology. All lies tell the truth. My extraordinary ability to read, to pin people comes from understanding that the same few basic trends govern almost every one of us. A selection of passages from Karen Horney, the great profiler of neuroses, whose applicability is obvious. He sees others, finally, in the light of his externalizations. He does not experience his own self-idealization. Instead, he idealizes others. He does not experience his own tyranny, but others become tyrants. The most relevant externalizations are those of self-hate. If this is prevailingly an active trend, he tends to see others as contemptible and blameworthy. If anything goes wrong, it is their fault. They should be perfect. They are not to be trusted. End quote. Beginning of a new quote. Distortions may result from endowing others with characteristics they do not have, or have only to a negligible degree. The neurotic may see them as completely ideal persons, endowed with godlike perfection and power. He may see them as contemptible and guilty. He may turn them into giants or into dwarves. Externalizations may also make a person blind towards the existing assets or drawbacks of others. He may transfer them to his own unrecognized taboos on exploiting and lying, and hence may fail to see in them even flagrant intents of exploitation and deception, or, having stifled his own positive feelings, he may be incapable of recognizing in others an existing friendliness or devotion. He would then be prone to regard them as hypocrites and be on his guard, not to be taken in by such maneuvers. End quote. John. Even him, whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs of lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. The Holy Scripture. You did not understand me, but, as I say in one of my published books, of philosophy and criticism, does Proust become something other than a writer to those who are unable to read French? No, you never understood me, but I understood you, and I am the one being judged here. I told Iris exactly how you were planning on running the game. I told Iris how you were paving the way for our triumph, and it played out exactly as I expected. Ask me how, if you wish. But you know you were dangerous, and that you were the perfect person to rally behind me, a resistance against you. Natalie. Beware of such an one, I say. Your whales must be seen before they can be killed, and the sunken-eyed young Platonist will tow you 10 wakes round the world and never make you 1 pint of sperm the richer. Herman Melville. Natalie, you were good to me, and I hope I was good enough to you. I spent much time trying to keep you in the game, trying to prove to the others that you and I thought alike, but there came a point where we both would have been doomed had I kept on resisting. Your vote was the most unpleasant plan I had to carry out, though, it must be noted, it was not my proposal. Iris, quoting the bard, that one may smile and be a villain. You were the strongest force in the game outside of myself. Each of us recognized in the other's strength, making our alliance one without pretense. I knew you wanted me out. You knew I wanted you out, and neither of us had to say it. We esteemed each other to the point where putting into words some things would have been insultingly superfluous. The last challenge screwed you. Real respect, real. River. Ferrum faro executor, et homo execuit faciam amici sui. Proverbs 27:17. My closest ally, my number one. You are the finest example of what I mean when I say that I put people first. You are everything I can trust to be true, and therefore I need nothing from you. If y'all want to know my strategy, look at my relationship with River. I went to rocks for her. I would have done it again, and if I wasn't 100% sure idling her would have been idling myself out, I would have went home on the revote. I would have done it. You weren't sitting next to me. You were sitting as me. Reason erases distinctions and is the pure unitive force. My fellow finalists, tell potentiates they live acting by others' action, not loved unless they give, not strong but by a faction. If potentiates reply, give potentiates the lie. Tell men of high condition that manage the estate, their purpose is ambition, their practice only hate. And if they once reply, then give them all the lie. Sir Walter Raleigh, again. I cannot fault your gains too much, but I can and will excoriate you both for the blatant misinterpretations, uninterpretations, and disinterpretations that slosh about your heads and hearts, swimming through your bodies, and spew out your openings. This is not the time to praise one another, regardless of desert. A list of grievances, my portrayal as someone floating through, as if I were a plastic bag in your supreme zephyr. The talk of tribal lines is particularly relevant, and this, if true, being anything but a sign of weakness. Parenthetical. You see, the point is that the strongest man in the world is he who stands most alone. Ibsen. The idea that I was not the most disadvantaged player coming into the merge, having had no opportunity to establish any solid relationships for the entirety of the pre-merge phase, specifically chases, taking credit for ideas which I had totally independently already transformed into action, identifying targets, creating mythos, forging shields, and most of all, how complete the ignorance of my influence on this game has been. Given that this is a non-linear speech, my justifications for calling each of these slanders are found elsewhere. If a Dewey Decimal reference is required, ask in the Q&A period and I'll make everything as plain can be. A primer on pride and contra mock modesty. I will, no doubt, be accused of being prideful. I say, I am prideful, and am prideful of that fact. If thou liest on account of humility, if thou wert not a sinner before lying, thou hast become one by lying. The blessed St. Augustine. Again, it is characteristic of the proud man not to aim at the things commonly held in honor, or the things in which others excel, to be sluggish, and to hold back except where great honor or a great work is at stake, and to be a man of few deeds, but of great and notable ones. He must also be open in his hate and in his love, for to conceal one's feelings, i.e. to care less for truth than for what people will think, is a coward's part. And must speak and act openly, for he is free of speech because he is contemptuous, and he is given to telling the truth, except when he speaks in irony to the vulgar. He must be unable to make his life revolve round another, unless it be a friend, for this is slavish, and for this reason all flatterers are servile, and people lacking in self-respect are flatterers. The philosopher. For nuance in the concepts of control and action. He then is perfect who does the work of the day perfectly. And we need not go beyond this to seek for perfection. You need not go out of the round of the day. The blessed Cardinal Newman. The question, what have I done, has already been answered in various ways. But again, I am open to reconfirmation. First, what I have not done. I have not been a Muna, a loose cannon tyrant. I have not been an Isaac, a lackey on the right side of the numbers until blown up. I have not been a John, unable to shake the reputation as puppeteer. I have not been a Chase, a cargo cultist of influence. I have not been an Iris, too obviously strong. I have not been a River, unlucky. I have proven my dedications, doubling the nexts in magnitude. I spent a long time on a jigsaw puzzle. I have swung the game onto a new track by revealing the true nature of the John, Mina, Isaac regime. I have established resilient relationships, not by playing up my own weaknesses, but by my strength, by giving value, by beautiful ideas. I have known when to keep my mouth shut and not self-sabotage. I have had absolute and well-placed confidence in my ability to win from the very start, and this final vote will show it once and for all. Flashy? No. The flashy, the chic, is brutish and nouveau. Controlling? If control is control over fate, pure free will, I am the only player with any control still here. For the others played such that I could win. Here we see the meaning of Schopenhauer, quoted once again, deservedly so, for his uncommon aptitude for seeing through people. Just as in a pond of still water, lying there like a mirror, there is no sign of the roar and thunder with which it can leap from the precipice and yet remain what it is, or again, rise high in the air as a fountain. When water is as cold as ice, you can have no idea of the latent warmth contained in it. To those who hear me not, listen again, listen closely, clean your ears, man, lest my truth, the truth, be suffocated, as in, the words came not then that were well said, if not heard, lost, suffocated under the crackling moss that tries to feed on the tangle hanging from worn hide. Quoting myself in my unpublished poem, Night Song to the River. Questions? Ask, but only good ones. Quote, "It is one of the chief skills of the philosopher not to occupy himself with questions which do not concern him." Ludwig Wittgenstein. TLDR. I fabricated the conditions that led me to here, and did so masterfully, both of my fellow finalists think they did it for me. I can supply a full bibliography if anyone wants. Smiley face.